"Mom, we're canceling lunch. We don't have time for you today. We're going to eat with my mother-in-law." I stared at that message, the message that came after I'd spent 2 years raising my son's twins from 5:45 a.m. until 10 p.m. every single day without pay, without thanks. Without even being called by my own name because Valerie just called me Liv like we were college roommates, after they'd moved me from the master bedroom of my own house to the guest room. Then to the service room with the twin bed and chipped nightstand, after Valerie sold my rosewood piano, the one I bought with my first paycheck as a lead teacher. The one worth $15,000 for $800 and deposited it for me, after my mother's porcelain collection that she spent 40 years building disappeared in a garage sale for $250. After my late husband Robert's $5,000 gold watch went to a jeweler for repair and never came back. If you want to know how a 68-year-old widow who'd been demoted to unpaid servant in her own home packed a suitcase at 8 a.m., took a taxi to the airport at 10 a.m., flew to Santa Fe to start over, and 3 months later sent her son a rental agreement demanding $2,500 a month for the house that had been legally hers all along. The house they'd been living in rent-free while treating me like I didn't exist. Hit that subscribe button right now because this is about learning that setting yourself on fire to keep others warm isn't love. It's self-destruction, and sometimes the only way to save yourself is to disappear completely, and sometimes the sweetest justice isn't revenge. It's watching yourself flourish in the soil you thought was barren while the people who took you for granted finally learn what it costs to function without you. I'm from Santa Fe, New Mexico now. Where are you watching from? My name is Olivia. I'm 69 years old today, but when this story began, I was 65, a recently widowed elementary school teacher who'd spent 32 years shaping young minds, who'd built a beautiful life with my husband Robert in the house we'd paid off 12 years before he died. The house with 4 bedrooms, 2 full bathrooms, a garden where I planted rose bushes that climbed to the roof, the house where I raised Thomas, my only son, the house that 3 years later would become my prison. It started innocently enough. April 3 years ago, Thomas arrived with that nervous smile I'd known since childhood, the same smile from when he broke the living room vase at 8 or failed math in high school. "Mom, there's someone I want you to meet." Valerie walked into my living room like she was walking onto a runway. High heels, fitted dress, that sweet perfume that flooded the entire space, straight dark hair falling perfectly over her shoulders. Magazine smile, she extended her hand with perfectly manicured nails. "Mrs. Olivia, I've heard so much about you." I was still wearing the apron I'd been using to make meatballs. I had flour on my hands. I felt small in front of her, even though I was the one in my own house. I should have paid attention to that first feeling. By October of that year, they were already married. Intimate wedding, they said. "Mom, Valerie wants something simple without so much drama." I, who had dreamed of organizing my only son's wedding, ended up as just another guest, sitting in the 3rd row of a rented garden, watching a coordinator I didn't know direct everything. But the worst wasn't that, the worst was what came after. "Mom, we need to stay with you for a few months," Thomas told me 2 weeks after the wedding, "just while we find something. You know how the real estate market is." How was I going to say no? He was my son, my only son, and this house had 4 bedrooms. There was plenty of space. "Of course, son. Take the time you need." Valerie suggested they take the master bedroom. "It has its own bathroom, Liv, and well, we're a couple. We need our space." She called me Liv as if we were lifelong friends. As if my full name was too formal for her. I had slept in that bedroom since I became a widow. It was where I'd mourned my husband's death, where I still kept his clothes because I didn't have the strength to give them away. Where his essence still lived in every corner. "Of course," I heard coming out of my mouth, "I'll move to the guest room." The guest room became my refuge for 6 months until Valerie suggested turning it into an office. "I work from home, Liv. I need a professional space. Would you mind using the other bedroom?" The other bedroom was smaller. It faced the backyard where the neighbors' dogs barked every morning. "No problem." Another 6 months later. "Liv, we're going to use that bedroom as a nursery. I'm pregnant. Isn't it wonderful?" And that's how I ended up in the service room. "Just until the baby is born and we move," Thomas promised. The baby turned into babies, twins, Sam and Renee. and the months of waiting turned into years. I was widowed 5 years ago, a refugee in my own home for 3. My husband Robert had been an electrician, a good man, one of those who fixed everything at home and never raised his voice. He died of a heart attack while installing a fan at a client's house fast without goodbyes. He left me this fully paid house, a modest life insurance that I invested wisely, and a pension of about $1,500 a month. I wasn't rich, but I didn't lack anything either until Valerie arrived. At first, they were small changes. Liv, don't you think these curtains are very old-fashioned? I bought new ones. The curtains my mother had helped me sew disappeared into a trash bag. Liv, this armchair is very worn out. I donated it to a charity. The armchair where Robert watched football on Sundays went away one morning while I was at the market. Liv, I found these photos on the bookshelf. I put them in a box so they don't gather dust. My wedding photos, Thomas's baptism, our family trips buried in a cardboard box in the hallway closet. Every change came wrapped in a smile in seemingly reasonable logic. And I nodded because I didn't want to be the bitter mother-in-law, the old woman resisting change, the one causing problems. But then the piano disappeared. My rosewood piano, the piece I bought with my first paycheck as a lead teacher, where I taught Thomas his first notes, where Robert sang ballads to me on anniversaries. One Saturday, I came home from the market and the space in the living room was empty. "Where is my piano?" I asked, trying to keep calm. Valerie didn't even look up from her phone. "I sold it. It took up too much space and no one played it. They gave me $800. I deposited it for you. $800 for an instrument worth more than $15,000. "You couldn't do that without consulting me," I said, my voice breaking. "Liv, please, this house needed space. Besides, when was the last time you used it?" Thomas entered at that moment. "Mom, don't make drama, it's done." Drama. Defending the little I had left was drama. But I said nothing more because I had learned that every time I protested, Valerie cried, Thomas defended her, and I ended up being the villain. That's how I learned to swallow my words. That's how I disappeared from my own life. After the piano came the porcelain. My mother had inherited a complete collection of fine china figurines to me, 20 pieces she collected herself over 40 years, each with its story, its origin, its meaning. They were in a wooden display cabinet in the dining room, protected behind glass that I cleaned every Sunday with almost reverential care. One afternoon, I returned from my monthly medical appointment and the cabinet was empty. "The porcelain?" I asked, my stomach in a knot. Valerie was feeding the twins in the kitchen. She didn't even turn around. "Ah, yes, I had a garage sale last Saturday. Everything sold. I got $250. We needed that space for the kids' toys. $250 for my mother's legacy. Valerie, those pieces were my mom's. You had no right." Finally, she looked at me with that expression she had perfected, innocent surprise mixed with slight annoyance. "Liv, no one told me they were important. They looked like simple ornaments gathering dust. Besides, the children need space to grow. We can't live in a museum." Thomas came in with Sam in his arms. "What's happening now? Your wife sold your grandmother's porcelain," he shrugged. "Mom, it was old stuff. You can't cling to the past all your life." Old stuff, his grandmother's legacy reduced to old stuff. That night in my service room, I made a mental list of everything that had disappeared in 2 years. The rosewood piano, $800 from a real value of $15,000. My mother's porcelain, $250 from an incalculable value. The silver tea set Robert gave me on our 25th anniversary, gifted to Valerie's cousin. The wicker rocking chair where I nursed Thomas, sold online for $80. The embroidered curtains, to the trash. My father's mahogany bookshelf, donated to a school. My vinyl records of classic boleros disappeared without explanation. But what hurt me most was the watch. Robert's gold watch, a Swiss piece his father gave him when he graduated from high school. My husband wore it every day of his life until he died. I kept it in a small velvet box inside my nightstand drawer along with his wedding ring. One morning, I looked for the box and it wasn't there. "Has anyone seen a small velvet box?" I asked at dinner. Valerie bit a piece of chicken before answering. "The dark blue box, yes, I took it for repair." The watch was broken. It wasn't broken and I didn't give you permission to touch it. "Liv, relax, I just wanted to help. Thomas told me it was his dad's watch and I thought it would be nice to restore it." "Where is it?" At the jeweler's downtown. You can pick it up whenever you want. I went the next day. The jeweler looked at me confused. Velvet box, no watch like that has arrived here, ma'am. I called Valerie. It's not at the jewelry store. Silence on the other end then. Oh, how strange. Maybe I left it at another one. I'll check my notes and let you know. She never let me know. The watch never appeared. And when I asked again weeks later, she told me the dry cleaners probably lost it or something that she didn't remember well. That watch was worth at least $5,000, but its sentimental value was priceless. And I knew in the depths of my soul that Valerie had sold it. But the worst part wasn't losing my belongings. The worst part was losing myself. When the twins were born, Sam and Renee, identical twins with brown eyes and round cheeks, I loved them from the first second. But love, I discovered very soon, can become your own trap. The first month was understandable. Valerie was recovering from childbirth. Thomas worked late. I helped. Of course I helped. What grandmother wouldn't? I got up when they cried at 3 in the morning. I prepared bottles. I changed diapers. I rocked cradles. Rest, Valerie, I'll handle it. The second month continued the same. Liv, you're an angel. I don't know what we would do without you. The third month was already routine. And somehow, without anyone saying it explicitly, I had become the official nanny. By the time the twins turned 6 months old, my life had this schedule: 5:45 a.m., alarm clock. I make coffee and have my only moment of silence of the day. 6:30 a.m., the twins wake up. I change diapers. I prepare bottles. 7 a.m., Valerie comes out of the master bedroom perfectly dressed to work in her office. Thomas has already left since 6 a.m. 8 a.m., breakfast for the children, porridge, stained bibs, floor to clean. 9 a.m., I try to bathe them. One cries while I bathe the other. 10 a.m. I take them out to the garden for some sun. Valerie is on a video conference. She needs silence. 12 p.m., lunch, more porridge, more mess. 1 p.m., nap time for the kids. I take the opportunity to wash their clothes, prepare food for everyone. 3 p.m., they wake up. Games, diaper changes, constant attention. 5 p.m., I prepare family dinner. 6 p.m. Thomas arrives, greets the children for 5 minutes, sits down to watch television. 7 p.m., dinner, I serve, I clean. 8 p.m., night bath for the twins. 9 p.m., I put them to sleep. Songs, stories, pats on the back. 10 p.m., I can finally go to my service room. 7 days a week without rest, without a salary, without even a consistent thank you. But you don't work, Mom. You have time, Thomas said when I dared to suggest that maybe I needed help. Didn't work. I got up before everyone and went to bed after everyone. My hands permanently smelled of baby soap and disinfectant. My knees creaked from carrying children so much. My back was a map of pain. But no, I didn't work. Valerie did work from her air-conditioned office with her laptop and her gourmet coffee, doing honestly I never knew exactly what, something related to social media for companies. What I do know is that when the twins cried, she closed the door. Liv, can you see what they need? I'm on an important call. She was always on an important call. Weekends were worse. Thomas and Valerie went out. Mom, we need couple time, you understand? And I stayed with Sam and Renee from Saturday morning until Sunday night. My pension went to diapers, wipes, medicine when they got sick, because yes, when they needed medicine at 2 in the morning, it was I who went down to the pharmacy. Liv, I'll reimburse you, Valerie said. She never did. Then came my 68th birthday, 3 months before that Christmas. Valerie organized a family reunion at my house. She invited her mother, her sister, 2 cousins. She also invited my sister Rose, who traveled from Santa Fe thinking it would be a celebration for me. The living room was decorated with pink and gold balloons. There was a table with snacks, wine, beer. Everything looked beautiful until I realized I wasn't the honoree. Welcome to my house, Valerie said, receiving the guests as hostess. My house, her mother, a lady with dyed blonde hair and too much jewelry, sat in the main armchair. What a beautiful home you have, daughter. I was in the kitchen heating the appetizers I'd been preparing since 5 in the morning. No one introduced me formally, no one toasted to me, no one mentioned it was my birthday. Rose found me washing dishes. Olivia, what are you doing? It's your day. Someone has to serve, I replied without looking at her. This is wrong, very wrong, but I just shook my head. I'd already learned not to cause scenes. At some point in the afternoon, while taking more drinks to the living room, I heard Valerie's voice talking to her cousin in the hallway. They didn't see me, or maybe they didn't care. And the lady asked the cousin, "Olivia, poor thing, she doesn't serve for much anymore, but she helps with the kids. Thomas feels pity, that's why we let her stay." They let me stay. In my own house, as a favor, as an act of charity, helps with the kids, doesn't serve for much anymore. Every word was a blow to the chest. I stood paralyzed in the hallway with a tray of glasses in trembling hands, processing what I'd just heard. Rose found me like that, frozen, with tears rolling silently down my cheeks. "Enough, Olivia," she whispered, taking me to the garden. "This has to end. I can't leave. They're my family, my grandchildren. Your family is destroying you. And your grandchildren are not your responsibility. You're their grandmother, not their mother." That night, after everyone left, after washing all the dishes from my birthday in my house where I was the maid, Rose sat with me in the service room. "Come to Santa Fe with me. I have space. I have a small textile workshop. You could help me or simply rest. Live, be Olivia again. I can't abandon Thomas." "Abandon, Olivia, look at yourself. You're the one being abandoned." I promised to think about it, but Rose knew my answer even before I said it. I wasn't ready yet. I needed something else. A final push, one last humiliation to wake me up completely. And 3 months later, it arrived in the form of a text message at 6 in the morning on Christmas. The weeks following my birthday, something began to move inside me. It wasn't immediate. It wasn't dramatic. It was like a small crack in a wall you thought was indestructible, a fissure that grows millimeter by millimeter until one day, with the precise blow, everything collapses. I started observing, really observing. I saw how Valerie spent hours in her office making video calls with friends while I changed the 10th diaper of the day. I heard her laughing, drinking coffee, planning nights out, all while I tried to stop Renee from crying because she was teething. I saw how Thomas arrived from work, greeted the twins with 2 quick kisses, and locked himself in the master bedroom to watch series on his tablet. "I'm tired, Mom. It was a heavy day." And did my days not count as heavy? One afternoon in October, Renee fell and split her eyebrow open. Blood everywhere, heartbreaking, crying. I took the girl, grabbed the car keys that Valerie almost never used, and drove to the emergency room with Sam crying in his car seat. 3 hours in the hospital, 4 stitches, Renee clinging to my neck the whole time, calling me Nana because she still couldn't pronounce Grandma. I called Valerie to let her know. "Oh, Liv, what a scare, but you were there, right? I'm in the middle of an important presentation. Let me know how everything turns out." She hung up. She didn't come to the hospital, neither she nor Thomas. When we returned home at 9 at night, I found them eating pizza in the living room watching a movie. "How is my princess?" Valerie asked, getting up to hold Renee, who immediately reached out her arms to her. "Because that's how it works, right? Children always want the one who arrives fresh, rested, with energy to play, not the one who changed diapers at 5 in the morning." 4 stitches, it will scar well, I said with a flat voice. "You're the best, Liv, right, Thomas? Your mom is an angel, a useful piece of furniture, an extension of their comfort." That night I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling of the service room, listening to the hum of the old refrigerator that Valerie had relegated to the laundry room next to my door. And something crystallized in my mind. This was never going to change. They were never going to move out. I was never going to recover my house, my space, my life, unless I did something. The next day I called Rose. "Sister, is your offer still standing?" There was silence on the other end. Then her voice, loaded with relief. "Always, Olivia, always. I need time to plan. I don't want to leave without being sure of everything." "What do you need?" "Information, numbers, options." Rose understood immediately. She wasn't just my older sister. She was a woman who had divorced at 50, who had built her own textile business in Santa Fe, who had learned to be strong when life forced her. She helped me contact a lawyer, a serious man named Mr. Henderson, who worked in property and inheritance matters. I had to invent excuses to go to his office. "I'm going to the doctor," I told Valerie. "Age things?" Mr. Henderson reviewed the documents of my house. "Mrs. Olivia, this property is completely in your name. You and your husband finished paying for it 12 years ago. There's no mortgage. There are no liens. It's legally yours 100%. And if someone else lives there without my permission, you're within your rights to ask them to leave. It's your property. And if I want to rent it, it's also your right. You can make a lease agreement to whomever you decide for the amount you decide. Those words were like oxygen to someone who'd been drowning for 3 years. It was my house. I researched rental prices in my neighborhood. Houses similar to mine rented between $2,500 and $3,000 a month. My house, with 4 bedrooms, 2 full bathrooms, garden, garage for 2 cars, could easily rent for $3,000. I crunched numbers in a notebook I kept under my mattress. Monthly pension, $1,500. Potential rent, $3,000. Total monthly, $4,500. Current savings, $50,000. What was left of Robert's insurance after 3 years funding diapers and expenses that weren't mine. With that money, I could live, I could breathe, I could be myself again. Rose sent me photos of her house in Santa Fe and adobe construction near the Plaza Market. The upstairs room is yours if you want it. It overlooks the street. The sun comes in all morning, and downstairs is my workshop. You could help me if you want, or simply rest. No pressure. For the first time in years, I imagined a different life, waking up without the twins crying, drinking coffee without having to warm bottles, walking through cobblestone streets. Maybe taking a class in something I liked, ceramics. I'd always been interested in working with clay. During November, I took important documents out of the house little by little. My birth certificate, the deeds, insurance papers, photographs I still valued. I took them to my neighbor's house, Mrs. Higgins, a 75-year-old woman who lived alone and understood more than she said. "Problems, Liv?" she asked me one day while storing a box with my things in her closet. "Changes," I replied. She nodded. "Sometimes changing is the only thing that saves us." I opened a new bank account at a different bank than the one I used. I transferred my savings little by little so Thomas wouldn't notice strange movements. He had access to my old account. "In case you need anything, Mom." In reality, it was so Valerie could check how much money I had left. I bought a plane ticket to Santa Fe for December 25th. Departure at 2:30 p.m., arrival at 4:30 p.m. I wrote a letter. I rewrote it 10 times. Finally, I left only 3 lines. I left. "I need to remember who I am without you. Don't look for me." More would have been giving them explanations they didn't deserve. And I waited. December arrived with its characteristic cold. The streets filled with Christmas lights, vendors, carols on every corner. Valerie decorated the house with a minimalist tree, white branches and silver spheres. None of the colored ornaments I'd collected for decades. Those had also disappeared. "This year we're going to do Christmas big," Valerie announced mid-month. "I'm going to invite my family." Of course, her family. I helped cook, I helped clean, I helped wrap gifts they would buy and put under the tree as if they were theirs. On December 23rd, Valerie mentioned casually, "Liv, my mom wants us to spend Christmas at her house. She says she prepared a special dinner." I felt the floor move under my feet. "And me? Well, you can come if you want." Although, honestly, my mom made a reservation at a restaurant and the cover is a bit expensive. But if you want to chip in, of course you're welcome. Chip in to go to a Christmas dinner with my daughter-in-law's family as a guest who must pay for her seat. "Let me think about it," I said. That night, Thomas entered the kitchen while I was washing dishes. "Mom, don't be difficult about dinner. Valerie just wants to spend time with her family too. You understand, you understand." Those 2 words I'd heard hundreds of times to justify every abuse, every dispossession, every humiliation. "Of course, son, I understand." And in that moment, looking at wrinkled hands submerged in soapy water, hands that had worked tirelessly for 68 years, I knew I was ready. The morning of the 24th, Valerie was getting the twins ready to go buy last-minute things. "Liv, can you come with us? I need you to hold Renee while I look for a gift I missed." "I can't, I have to go to the bank." "To the bank?" "On Christmas Eve, they close early." "It's urgent." I went to the bank. I withdrew $2,000 in cash. The rest would remain safe in my new account. That night, while they dined on turkey and eggnog at the mother-in-law's house, I finished packing my suitcase in the service room. I went to bed early. I set my alarm for 5:45 a.m. And at exactly 6 o'clock in the morning on December 25th, my phone lit up the darkness with a message that no longer surprised me. "Mom, we're canceling lunch. We don't have time for you today. We're going to eat with my mother-in-law." I read the message 3 times, I smiled, and I began the last chapter of my life as a prisoner. At 5:45 a.m. on December 25th, my alarm rang in the dark. I dressed in my most comfortable clothes: jeans, cotton blouse, knitted sweater, closed shoes. I gathered my hair in a simple braid. I looked at myself in the mirror of the shared bathroom for the last time. The woman who stared back had deep circles under her eyes, wrinkles that weren't there 3 years ago, completely white hair. But her eyes, those brown eyes that looked so much like my mother's, shone with something new: determination. At 6 a.m., the message I expected arrived. I read it without surprise, without pain, almost with gratitude, because it confirmed that my decision was the correct one. I took my suitcase. I took my bag with Robert's urn. I left the letter on the dining room table, held down by the ceramic salt shaker that had survived all of Valerie's purges. I closed the front door without looking back. The taxi was waiting for me with the engine running, puffing steam into the cold air of Christmas morning. "Ready, ma'am?" the driver asked. "More than ever," I replied. And as we drove away through empty streets decorated with Christmas lights, I felt the weight of 3 years of humiliation lift off my shoulders like a coat too heavy that you finally allow yourself to take off. They didn't know what was coming, but soon they would discover it. The international airport was surprisingly quiet that morning of December 25th. I checked my suitcase at the counter. The employee, a young girl with a prop Christmas hat, smiled at me with genuine kindness. "Family visit, a new beginning," I replied. Her smile widened. "How beautiful." "Merry Christmas, ma'am. Merry Christmas." I sat in the waiting room with my bag on my lap, feeling the weight of Robert's urn inside. I thought of the twins. Would they have woken up yet? Sam was always the first, jumping on his bed, screaming that he wanted to open gifts. Would they miss me? Probably. Children always miss the familiar, the constant, and I'd been their constant for 2 years. I felt a lump in my throat. This was the hardest part, leaving them, who were innocent in all this. But then I remembered Rose's words: "You can't set yourself on fire to keep others warm." The twins had parents, 2 young, healthy, capable parents. It was time they learned to do it. The flight was announced. I entered the plane. I found my seat by the window. An older lady sat next to me. She had to be about 70, with completely white hair gathered in an elegant bun. She had a book in her hands, "Women Who Run with the Wolves." "Good book," I told her, pointing at it. "The best," she replied with a smile. "I've read it 4 times, every time I need to remember my strength." We took off. The city became small beneath us, a mosaic of buildings and avenues that soon disappeared among the clouds. I reclined in my seat and closed my eyes, finally allowing myself to process what I'd just done. I'd left my son. I'd abandoned my house. I'd fled on Christmas. And most surprising of all, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. The plane landed in Santa Fe at exactly 4:30 p.m. The sky was a brilliant blue, the sun warm even in December. So different from the gray cold of the city. Rose was waiting for me in the arrivals area. I saw her before she saw me. She was thinner than I remembered, with short hair dyed a reddish brown. She wore an embroidered tunic and jeans. She looked happy, full, like someone who'd found her place in the world. When our eyes met, she ran toward me with open arms. "Olivia," she whispered against my hair while hugging me, "you did it. You really did it." And there, in the middle of the airport, surrounded by the smell of local spices and the sound of native dialects mixing with English, I allowed myself to cry, not from sadness, from relief. I came with everything. "With Robert," I said, pointing to my bag. Rose laughed through tears. "He also deserves a new beginning." Rose's house was on a cobblestone street near the plaza, a 2-story adobe construction with wrought iron balconies and pots full of red geraniums. She took me straight to the second floor. "This is your room." It was small but bright, a twin bed with a hand-woven quilt in orange and blue tones, a wooden rocking chair by the window overlooking the street, a nightstand with a lamp, an antique but solid wardrobe, and on the wall a painting of Our Lady of Guadalupe. "It's perfect," I whispered. That night, while the city of Santa Fe celebrated Christmas with mariachi music filtering through my window, I sat in the rocking chair with Robert's urn in my lap. "We did it, honey," I told him. "We saved ourselves." I turned on my phone for the first time since the morning. 37 missed calls from Thomas, 22 messages, 4 from Valerie. I read them all without opening any. I could see the previews. Mom, where are you? Did something happen? We're worried. It's not funny anymore. Why did you leave? We need to talk. None said I'm sorry. None said I miss you. None asked how I was. Everyone asked where I was because that was their real concern, not my well-being but my location, my availability. I wrote a single message to Thomas: I'm fine, I'm safe, I need time. Don't look for me. I sent it and turned off the phone again. I lay in that new bed, in that room that smelled of clean sheets and old wood, in that city I didn't know but that already felt more like home than the service room where I'd slept for 3 years. And for the first time in an eternity, I slept through the night without waking up startled by a baby's cry. I slept as one sleeps when you finally stop carrying the world on your shoulders. I slept like a free woman. I learned later through Rose, who spoke with Mrs. Higgins, exactly what happened that night of December 25th when they returned home. It was 8:30 p.m. when Thomas's car parked in front of the house. Valerie was complaining that her mother had served too much food and she felt bloated. The twins were sleeping in their car seats, exhausted after a full day being spoiled by her family. Thomas opened the front door carrying Sam. Valerie entered behind with Renee in her arms. The house was completely dark, silent, cold. Mom, Thomas called, turning on the living room lights. Nothing. They took the twins up to their room. They put them to bed without changing their clothes. Valerie was in a bad mood. Surely she went out with a friend. How strange that she didn't say anything. But something in the silence of the house didn't feel normal. Thomas went down to the kitchen. There was no smell of food, no dishes in the sink, the stove cold, everything exactly as they'd left it in the morning. It was then that he saw the letter on the dining room table, the white envelope with his name written in my shaky handwriting. He took it with hands that I was told trembled slightly. He opened it. He read the 3 lines once, twice, 3 times. Valerie, his voice sounded strange. You need to see this. She came down the stairs with annoyance. What is it now? Thomas handed her the letter without a word. Valerie read it. She blinked. She reread it. Is this a joke? Check her room. They walked together down the hallway to the service room. Thomas opened the door. The bed was made with military precision, the small nightstand empty. The closet without a door showed only bare hangers, not a piece of clothing, not a shoe, not a personal object. The shared bathroom had no trace of me either. My toothbrush, my cream, my shampoo, everything had disappeared. She left, Thomas whispered. Did she really leave? Valerie let out a nervous laugh. She's exaggerating, playing the victim. She'll come back when her tantrum passes. But Thomas knew that handwriting. He knew the weight of those words. I left. I need to remember who I am without you. Don't look for me. He took out his cell phone. He dialed my number, voicemail. He tried again, voicemail. A third time, voicemail. By 11 p.m., after 47 unanswered calls, after checking every room in the house looking for a clue, after calling nearby hospitals asking if any woman of my description had been admitted, panic began to set in. Thomas called Rose, my sister, bless her, answered on the 3rd ring with a sleepy voice. Aunt, it's Thomas. Have you heard anything from my mom? Why are you calling me at this hour, Thomas? My mom disappeared. She left a letter. She says she left. Is she with you? There was a calculated silence on the other end. Rose knew how to act. She left. Where to? That's what I'm asking you. No, I haven't heard anything from her for weeks. Did you check the hospitals? Yes. She's not in any of them. My God, Thomas, what did you do to her? That question fell like a stone in still water. What did we do to her? Nothing. We just told her that today we would eat with Valerie's family. On Christmas? Yes. You left her alone on Christmas. She could come if she wanted. Rose let out a sigh that sounded like deep disappointment. Look for her, Thomas, and when you find her, you better ask for forgiveness on your knees. She hung up. The following weeks were chaos for them. Thomas tried to hire a nanny. He posted ads, called agencies. The first candidate lasted exactly 3 days. The children are very demanding, she told Thomas when she quit. And your wife, she's at home all day but expects me to do everything. The second nanny was a lady of 50-something with 20 years of experience. She lasted a week. Your wife talks to me as if I were her personal employee. I came to take care of children, not to serve an adult. By February, there were no nannies available. Valerie's reputation as an impossible employer had already circulated. Valerie had to take charge of the twins completely without intermediaries, without escape. The household bills began to arrive. Electricity, water, gas, internet, things I'd always paid for with my pension. Without me, those financial holes became evident. Thomas's messages on my voicemail became more desperate. "Mom, please, we need to talk. I don't know how you did it. The kids ask for you every day. Valerie and I don't stop fighting. I think this is destroying our marriage. Can you at least tell me what I did wrong? I need to understand." Rose showed me the messages. "Are you going to answer him?" "Not yet. He needs to hit rock bottom. He's pretty far down, sister, but he hasn't understood. He still thinks the problem is that I'm not there. He doesn't understand that the problem is how they treated me when I was there." Meanwhile, I flourished. I started ceramics classes at a small workshop downtown. Master Aurelio taught me the basics: how to prepare the clay, how to center it on the wheel, how to feel its movement under the hands. My first attempts were disastrous, but by the third class I managed to make a small bowl, imperfect, with uneven walls, but mine, completely mine. I made friends: Susan, a 72-year-old widow who'd also chosen herself over obligation. "My daughters wanted me to sell my house and go live with them," she told me one day. "I told them over my dead body. Now I live alone, I see them when I want, and I'm happy." I sold my first piece at the Sunday artisan market, a set of 3 bowls I called Rebirth, $100. Not much money, but when that woman paid me in cash and thanked me for creating something so special, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. I felt worthy. In April, 3 months after my departure, Thomas finally did something he hadn't done in years. He took a week of vacation to stay at home. He wanted to understand. He wanted to live what I had lived. Monday, the twins woke him up at 5:30 a.m. By 9 a.m., he was already exhausted. Tuesday, Sam got sick to his stomach, vomit everywhere. Wednesday, 2 sick children crying at the same time. Valerie locked in her office because she had an important presentation. Thursday, the house was a disaster zone, mountains of dirty laundry. Dishes accumulated, bathrooms needing deep cleaning. Friday, Thomas tried to cook something healthy. He burned the rice. They ended up eating cereal for dinner. Saturday night, Thomas sat on the living room floor with his back against the couch. The twins finally asleep, Valerie in the shower, the house in silence, and he cried. He cried because he understood. He understood that I'd done that every day for 2 whole years without complaint, without rest, without thanks. He understood that I hadn't left on a whim or a tantrum. I'd left for survival. Sunday morning, without telling Valerie, he bought a bus ticket to Santa Fe. Rose called me. "He's on his way." "I know. Are you ready?" More than ever. Because after 3 months of peace, of ceramics, of building myself anew, I was finally ready to face my son, but not as the submissive mother I'd been. As the woman who'd learned to value herself. Thomas arrived in Santa Fe on a Sunday afternoon. Rose notified me from downstairs. "Olivia, he's here." I went down the stairs slowly. Thomas was in the living room, standing by the table where Rose worked her textiles. He looked terrible, marked circles under his eyes, wrinkled clothes, several days' beard. He'd lost weight. When he saw me, his face crumbled. "Mom, Thomas," we stood looking at each other for a moment that seemed eternal. Rose got up discreetly. "I'm going to the market, take your time." When the door closed, the silence became dense. "You look good," he finally said. "I am. The kids miss you, they ask for you every day." I didn't answer, I waited. He ran his hands through his hair with desperation. "Mom, this has to end. We need you to come back, we can't go on like this." There it was, the speech he'd come to give, the plea wrapped in need. "Nannies don't work, Valerie and I fight all the time, the kids are out of control, the house is a disaster. I don't know how you did it, but we can't." His voice broke. "Please, Mom, come home." I sat in Rose's armchair. Thomas remained standing, expecting me to yield as I'd always yielded. "Do you miss your mother, or do you miss the free nanny?" He froze. "What? Answer me, Thomas. When you think about me coming back, do you think about seeing me, hugging me, asking me how I am? Or do you think about who's going to change your children's diapers?" "Mom, that's not fair, not fair. Let's talk about what's not fair." I stood up, feeling a strength I didn't know I had. "Is it fair that you took my bedroom? Is it fair that I ended up in the service room of my own house? Is it fair that Valerie sold your father's piano for $800 when it was worth more than $15,000? What? I went to my room and came down with the notebook where I'd written everything down. I handed it to him. Read. Thomas opened the notebook with trembling hands. His eyes scanned the list I'd made so carefully. Rosewood piano sold for $800, real value $15,000. Grandma's porcelain sold for $250, priceless value. Your father's gold watch missing, value $5,000. Wicker rocking chair sold for $80. Silver tea set gifted to Valerie's cousin, value $1,000. The list continued. 32 items, a complete inventory of everything I'd lost in 3 years. At the end of the list, I'd written, approximate total in material losses $20,000, total in sentimental losses priceless. Thomas's face paled as he read, Mom, I didn't know. Valerie never told me and you never asked. When your grandmother's porcelain disappeared, did you ask where it went? When the piano was no longer there, did you care? When I told you I couldn't find your father's watch, did you look for it? He dropped onto the couch. My God, and that's just the material stuff. Do you want to talk about the rest? I sat in front of him, looking him directly in the eyes. 2 years taking care of your children from 6 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night, 7 days a week, without a single day off, without a salary, without even a consistent thank you. You said you wanted to help Thomas. Not be exploited. Help is a few hours a day, a few times a week. What I did was raise your children because neither you nor Valerie wanted to do it. That's not true. You what? How many times did you bathe the twins? How many nights did you get up when they cried? How many times did you take them to the doctor? Tell me, Thomas, give me a number. Silence. I'll tell you 0. The answer is 0. Because every time your children needed something, you handed them to me as if I were their mother and not their grandmother. I worked all day, and I didn't work, right? Because taking care of children isn't work, cleaning isn't work. Cooking isn't work, washing mountains of clothes isn't work. My voice rose in volume. Do you know how much a full-time nanny costs, Thomas? Between $3,000 and $4,000 a month. I did that for free for 2 years. 24 months, that's almost $100,000 you owed me. He did the math mentally, his face crumbled even more. And still, I continued, still I could have endured it if you'd at least treated me with respect. But you made me invisible in my own home. Remember my birthday 4 months ago? Your birthday? He looked confused. Valerie organized a family reunion at my house. She introduced her mother as the guest of honor. I served all night as if I were the employee, and when I thought no one was listening, I heard your wife tell her cousin, poor thing, she doesn't serve for much anymore, but she helps with the kids. Thomas closed his eyes. Mom, doesn't serve for much anymore. Those were her words, and you never defended me, you never protected me, you never saw me. Tears began to roll down my son's cheeks. I'm sorry. God, Mom, I'm so sorry. What exactly do you feel sorry about? That I left or how you treated me? Everything. I'm sorry for everything. He wiped his face with his hands. You're right about everything. We were selfish. I was selfish. I let Valerie take control of your house and said nothing. I let them take your space and thought you were okay because you never complained. I complained, Thomas, many times, but you silenced me. You told me not to exaggerate, not to make drama, to understand. I know, and it was wrong, it was all wrong. He knelt in front of me, something he hadn't done since he was a child. Mom, forgive me. Please forgive me for not seeing you, for not listening to you, for leaving you alone on Christmas, for everything. I looked at him, really looked at him. I saw my adult son crying like when he was little and fell off his bike. I saw the man I'd raised, educated, loved with every fiber of my being, but I also saw the man who'd allowed me to be destroyed. I accept your apology, Thomas, because you're my son and I love you. But that doesn't mean things will go back to how they were. What do you mean? I took a deep breath. It means that if I want to be part of your life again, it will be on my terms, not Valerie's, not yours. Mine? What do you need? First, I need you to understand that that house is mine, only mine. The deeds are in my name. Your father and I paid for it. You've lived there 3 years without paying rent, without paying full utilities, without really contributing. He nodded, waiting. I spoke with a lawyer before leaving. That house can be rented for $3,000 a month easily. So you have 2 options. You rent the house officially for $2,500 a month with a legal contract, or you move out and I look for other tenants. $2,500, he calculated mentally. It's a fair price, Thomas, less than market value, but you'll no longer live for free at my expense. Okay, we'll do it. I'll sign whatever is necessary. Second, I continued, I'm staying in Santa Fe. I have my life here now. I have my ceramics classes, I have friends, I have peace. His face crumbled. Are you not coming back? I'll visit you once a month as a grandmother, not a nanny. I'll arrive, hug my grandchildren, spend quality time with them, and I'll leave. The rest of the time, you handle being the parents you chose to be. But the kids need you, the kids need their parents, and their parents need to learn to be parents. Thomas cried silently. It wasn't manipulative crying. It was the crying of someone who finally understood the magnitude of what he'd lost. Is there anything else? He asked with a hoarse voice. Yes, one last thing. Valerie and you need couples therapy and probably individual therapy. Because what I saw in those 3 years wasn't a healthy marriage. It was a toxic partnership where I was the glue keeping everything together. He nodded. We'll do it. And Thomas, my voice softened. If you really want us to have a relationship again, you need to work on yourself. You need to learn to set boundaries. You need to learn to see the people you love before they disappear. I will, Mom. I promise. I hugged him then because he was still my son, because I loved him, but no longer from the blind selflessness that had destroyed me. I loved him from a place of self-respect, and that was the difference that changed everything. 2 weeks after Thomas's visit, Mr. Henderson traveled to the city with the contracts ready. Rose called me on video call so I could witness the signing from Santa Fe. Thomas and Valerie were sitting at the dining room table of my house. Valerie had her arms crossed and an expression mixing fury with helplessness. Thomas looked resigned but also relieved, as if there was finally clarity after months of chaos. Mrs. Valerie, Mr. Thomas, the lawyer began with a professional tone. This is a standard lease agreement. The property will be rented for the amount of $2,500 per month. The payment must be made within the first 5 days of each month via bank transfer. Valerie interrupted him. This is ridiculous. It's the family house. The lawyer didn't flinch. It's Mrs. Olivia Reyes's property. You've resided here as guests for the last 3 years. This contract formalizes your stay and protects the rights of both parties. And if we don't sign, Valerie asked defiantly, then Mrs. Olivia will initiate a legal eviction process. As the owner, she's well within her rights. The process takes approximately 90 days. During that time, you would have to look for another home. Thomas put his hand over Valerie's. We're going to sign. She's right, Valerie. It's her house. It always was. We've lived here for free too long. This is fair. Valerie glared at him, but Thomas had already taken the pen. He signed every page, marked his initials firm and clear. After a long, tense silence, Valerie also signed, although every stroke seemed to cause her physical pain. Excellent, said the lawyer. The first payment is due May 5th. When the lawyer left, I heard through Rose's phone how Valerie exploded. Are you happy? Your mother turned us into tenants in our own house. It was never our house, Valerie, it was hers, and we treated her so badly she preferred to go live in another city than stay here with us. The first payment arrived on May 3rd. $2,500 deposited punctually in my account, plus my pension of $1,500, added up to $4,000 a month. With that income, I could not only live dignifiedly, I could prosper. I increased my ceramics classes to 3 times a week. I bought a small wheel to practice at Rose's house. Master Aurelio invited me to participate in an artisan market organized every Sunday in the plaza. Your pieces have something special, Olivia. People connect with them. He was right. Every Sunday I sold between 3 and 5 pieces, bowls, cups, small plates, nothing very elaborate but each one made with care and love. In June, Thomas kept his word to visit me once a month. He arrived with the twins on a Saturday morning. He'd rented a car and driven the hours to Santa Fe. When Sam and Renee saw me, they ran toward me shouting, Nana. Nana, I hugged them with an intensity that surprised me. I'd missed them. But it was a healthy missing of a grandmother who loves, not a slave who serves. I missed you so much, I told them, covering their faces with kisses. We spent the day together. I took them to the market where I bought them wooden toys. We ate enchiladas at a stall Rose recommended. I took them to my ceramics workshop where Master Aurelio gave them clay to mold whatever they wanted. Renee made a deformed snake. Sam made a circle with holes he insisted was cheese. Both were full of mud and happiness. You don't live with us anymore, Nana, Renee asked while we ate ice cream. Now I live here, my love. But I visit you and you can visit me too. Why did you leave? Thomas intervened. Because Nana needed her own space and Dad was foolish and didn't realize it in time. But now we'll come to see her often. Yes, the children nodded, satisfied with that simple explanation. At night, after putting the twins to bed in the guest room Rose had prepared, Thomas and I sat on the terrace. Valerie and I are in therapy, he said without me asking. How's it going? Difficult, painful, but necessary. He took a sip of his coffee. The therapist made us see that our marriage was built on very fragile foundations. I worked to escape home. She played at being an influencer to avoid dealing with being a mother. And you were the one holding everything together. And now we're learning. Valerie reduced her work hours to be more with the children. I arrive earlier, we have dinner together, we bathe the twins together. It's exhausting, Mom. I don't know how you did it alone. Because I had no choice, you took it from me. He nodded, ashamed. In July, I received an unexpected call. It was Valerie. Olivia, her voice sounded strange, almost humble. Can we talk? Speak. I need to ask for forgiveness for everything, for selling your things, for treating you how I treated you, for making you feel invisible in your own home. She paused. I have no excuse. I was selfish and cruel, and if I could return everything I took, I would. You can't return it, Valerie. It's done. I know, but I want you to know I'm trying to be better with the children, with Thomas. And if one day you can forgive me, forgiveness is a process, Valerie. It's not something given automatically because someone asks. It's earned with consistent actions, not with pretty words. I understand. Just thank you for listening to me. She hung up. Rose, who'd heard my side of the conversation, looked at me with pride. Look who you are now, strong, clear, not letting yourself be manipulated. I learned from the best, I smiled, pointing at her. In August, I participated in my first formal exhibition. A small gallery in downtown Santa Fe was showing new artisan voices, and Master Aurelio nominated me. I presented a collection of 12 pieces called Rebirth. Each one represented a stage of my transformation. There was a cracked plate I'd repaired with the kintsugi technique, the fractures highlighted with gold dust. A vase shaped like a cocoon opening, a cup with roots growing from the base. Susan came to the opening, Rose invited half the market, Thomas made the trip with the twins to be present. Look, Sam, he told him, showing my pieces. Your grandmother made this, she's an artist. It's pretty, said the boy with sincere admiration. I sold 8 of the 12 pieces that night. The money didn't matter as much as what it meant. Someone valued my work. Someone considered what I created had enough value to take home. That night back at Rose's house, I sat in my rocking chair with a cup of chamomile tea. Robert's urn was on my nightstand where I always kept it. We made it, honey, I whispered. I found my way back to myself. And while the old city breathed under the stars, while the smell of sage filtered through my window, while Rose's and her friends' voices laughed on the ground floor, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. I felt I was exactly where I should be, not in the service room of a house that no longer saw me, but in my own space with my own life, finally being myself. Because sometimes the sweetest justice isn't revenge, it's flourishing. A full year has passed since that Christmas morning when I woke up with a message that changed my life. Today I'm 69 years old. I live in Santa Fe with my sister. I teach ceramics classes twice a week to other women who, like me, are rediscovering themselves. I sell my pieces at the artisan market. I visit my grandchildren once a month and enjoy every minute with them because now I'm a grandmother, not a substitute mother. Thomas and Valerie continue paying the rent punctually. They're still in therapy. Their marriage survived, although transformed. The twins are learning that having present parents is better than having an exhausted grandmother. Do I regret leaving? Not a single day, because I learned something every woman should know: loving yourself isn't selfishness. It's the most revolutionary act you can do. When you stop setting yourself on fire to keep others warm, you discover that your own light is sufficient. And that light, the one shining from self-respect, recovered dignity, and the courage to choose yourself, is the one that finally illuminates the path back home. To your true home, to yourself. Share your story with us. If you've ever been demoted to servant in your own home, if you've raised someone else's children without pay or thanks, if you've watched your belongings disappear while being told you're making drama, If you've slept in a service room while others occupied the master bedroom of the house you paid for, if you've been called selfish for finally choosing yourself after decades of giving, know this. Loving yourself isn't selfish, setting boundaries isn't cruel, and sometimes disappearing is the only way to save the person you're becoming from the person they're making you into. The most valuable thing you have isn't what you possess, it's what you don't allow them to take from you. And the thing they can never take, the thing that belongs only to you, is your right to choose yourself. Always choose yourself. It's never too late.